Welcome to the Set Breaker podcast. And today we have a very special guest. I've been waiting a long time to talk to this man. His name is Dr. Robert Glover. Hello, Dr. Glover. How are you?
Hey, Mike, I'm well. Good to be with you. I've never done an interview with a comedian before, so man, it just starts. We got the stage voice going. I like it.
Oh yeah. I just got a little yeah. So your book, by the way, guys, if you don't know who Dr. Glover is, he's the author of the book No More Mr. Nice Guy. And as you can see, this is my Bible. I have tabs and tabs. Like I've read this book like 5 times in a row. I'm not even kidding you. I read this book at least 10 minutes per day to keep me in check. And actually your book, oh, by the way, so, okay, I should say what this book is. So this book is, it says a proven plan for getting what you want in love, sex, and life. And this book, I've read a lot of books that have to do with relationships and, you know, dating and everything. But this is the #1 book I've ever read that is so practical, so realistic, and brings up just things you wouldn't even think to think about, right? But they relate to every single man out there. Like, so basically your book, I came across your book when I got out of a relationship about less than 6 months ago. And then I started reading your book, and your book helped me get over that relationship like that. And it was my longest relationship too, which is crazy, you know? So
right.
I have to thank you for that.
You've made my day. I can just, go home, go to bed now. I mean, you made my day. Thanks. Yeah, thanks. I'm glad, I'd like hearing that my book has made an impact on people's lives. And I like seeing all the little tabs you got in there. And people say, hey, my book's all yellow highlighted all the way through. And I tell people it's autobiographical. I am a recovering nice guy. And that book's the story of my life. I just use other people's stories to tell my story. And it resonates because there's a lot of other men out there, apparently like you and I, that have been buying into this roadmap or this belief system. If we're just a nice guy, everybody's going to like us and everything will work out okay and we'll get everything we want. And come to find out that doesn't always work so well.
Yeah, and that's something that is, oh my God, my whole life I thought if I just do this, which by the way, the whole covert contract term changed my life again. Like I can apply that to anything. So basically a covert contract, guys, is you correct me if I don't explain it the right way, but it's if I do something for them, they will do this for me.
Actually, you got that really, really good. And you know what? I tell people in just my own evaluation of the book, I think that probably is the most valuable concept in the entire book is the idea around covert contracts. So you want to go into that a little bit deeper? I'll kind of flesh that out a little bit.
Yes.
Because I'll give it even a finer tuning than what it had in the book. I finished writing the book about 20 years ago. And as I said, I'm a recovering nice guy. I'm still doing my work. I still work with lots of men. So I keep getting a better understanding of these pieces. So the covert contract for the nice guy, pretty much everything a nice guy does is driven by these unconscious contracts, agreements with the world, with people, in situations, whether it's in relationship, at work, walking down the street even. And they're all subtly manipulative. And they're all really, they don't work for many reasons, but one of the main reasons they don't work is often the nice guy himself is unconscious that he's using these contracts. That's why they're covert contracts. And nobody else knows that the contract exists. Only the nice guy, and often he's not even aware of it. But they're all subtly manipulative. They're all giving to get. They've all got strings attached. And they all have that if-then format that you said. So the 3 primary covert contracts of nice guy syndrome. Covert contract number 1. If I'm a good guy, I'll be liked and loved. And we all want to be liked. We all want love. And we think, all right, how do I get liked? How do I get loved? And so I'll just be really good. I'll do everything right. And so nice guys fundamentally are not being themselves. They're often trying, because we can talk more about this in a minute, but at their core, they've internalized a belief that I'm not okay just as I am. So I've got to become something different. So I know I'll try to become what I think other people want me to be, and then I'll be liked and loved. Or I'll hide anything about me that other people might have a negative reaction to. Then I'll be liked and loved. And take it a step further, for most of us men, single or married, we think if I'm a good guy, I'll be liked and loved, and the woman I want to have sex with me will want to have sex with me. So if you're single, I want her to have, like me and have sex with me. So I'll go be a good guy. I'll treat her really well. I'll do things for her. I'll be different than the other guys. I'll listen to her talk about her problems. I'll help her sister move. I'll pay her rent. I'll go pick her up when her car's broken down. She'll like me and want to have sex with me. And guys, married guys do that too. I'll do this for my wife. I'll do that. I'll wash the dishes. I'll put the kids to bed. I'll do this special thing for her. Then she'll want to have sex with me. But it's a covert contract, and it is fundamentally manipulative. And as maybe we'll talk about in a minute, it's one of the reasons nice guys are anything but nice. Because, I do all these things for you, and then when you don't keep your side of the contract, I get resentful. I get pissy. I might get passive aggressive. I might even blow up and attack you. So that covert contract number one, if I'm a good guy, people will like me and love me. Now, one of the core problems with that is nobody likes everybody. And so we're thinking just me being good, everybody's going to like me. Nobody likes everybody. Not everybody likes you. Not everybody likes me. But mature people understand that. And we're comfortable being in our own skin. And who likes us, great. Who doesn't like us, great. No problem. So covert contract number one. Covert contract number two. If I meet your needs without you having to ask, in other words, if I read your mind and just give to you what I think you might want, then you'll read my mind. You'll meet my needs without me having to ask. Again, very manipulative. I'm going to do nice things for you, and in return, you'll do nice things back for me. Well, again, other people, whether you're at work, whether it's with your girlfriend, whether it's with your wife, your buddy, it doesn't matter. They don't even know the contract exists. They don't know that you just did these things because you were expecting them to know what you want and give back. So nice guys often don't communicate their wants and needs. They often don't get with people that are very good at helping them get their needs met. And throw in there that most nice guys are not very good receivers. Most of us feel uncomfortable or guilty, or even we feel like we're bad or we're doing something wrong if we have needs or if we need or want somebody to help us. So we use our covert contracts. I'll do this for them and then they'll do it for me. Covert contract number three is that if I do everything right, then I will have a smooth, problem-free world. Now, again, lots of problems with that one. Nobody does everything right. What is the standard of doing everything right? We're the scorekeeper. I've done everything right. And the world is not a smooth, problem-free place. That's just not the universe we live in. Especially, with everything, but especially in a relationship. They're not smooth and problem-free, but, we nice guys think, I've done everything right. I've treated you well. I've done what you asked me to. I've checked off all the boxes. How come you're still in a bad mood? How come you're not treating me well? How come you don't want to have sex with me? How come you're bringing up the past? How come you don't want to go out with me? And so these are the things that make us nice guys. They make us frustrated on the inside, and that usually leads to resentment, and it often leads to us either withdrawing or trying harder, doing the things that don't work. And it also often leads to a lot of resentment that we do project out onto other people. Nice guys are some of the most resentful, unnice people you're going to meet.
The whole thing about not being a good receiver, I was like, shit, I don't know how to do that. I've had to, ever since I got your book, I had to work to just be like, okay, if somebody cooks for me, and just sitting there, I think it was an example in the book, I can't remember, but I would just be like, okay, no, remember the book, let them, because normally I'd say, oh, let me help you, let me do this, let me do that, oh, la. But I was like, no, just sit in this discomfort, because it's their choice to give you something. Yeah.
And it was hard. And I tell guys, I said, it makes you feel good to give to other people, and it makes other people feel good to give to you. Don't rob them of that opportunity. I'll give you a couple stories. So I've had to work on this one a lot. When I first, about 25 years ago, started working on what I now call my nice guy syndrome, one of the things I realized is I was giving all the time, especially to my wife, trying to make her happy. And she and I were going to therapy because me being a nice guy wasn't working very well. And, and in that process, I decided to go on a 1-year moratorium where I would not give any gifts. I would not do any surprises, anything special for anybody. No Mother's Day cards, no Christmas gifts. And every time I had the impulse to do something for somebody or get something, I had to do something for myself or give myself something. So it began with me making my needs a priority, which is really hard for nice guys. So I had to begin, instead of making everybody else's needs a priority and hoping they would then I had to start making me a priority. The second part of that process really began being more conscious once I learned to give to me, is I had to let other people give to me. And in the couple of stories I was going to mention, one is I was married when I wrote No More Mr. Nice Guy. I was in a relationship that lasted about 14 years, had a lot of problems in it, partly me being a nice guy, partly stuff that was on my wife's end of stuff. And so when I got divorced in my late 40s, I got out there and I hadn't had a lot of sex. My second wife, we had very little sex. And I started meeting women that, wanted to have sex. And and it's like, I got really uncomfortable with women giving to me sexually. And what I realized, I started meeting, a number of women that took great pride in their blowjobs. They liked, they got, I don't know if they were nice girls or just, hey, I'm good at this. And I realized I actually had to learn to relax and let the woman give to me in that way. There's a part of me that got really uncomfortable. Oh no, you don't have to do that. Let me do something to you. And so I like to tell the story because one way to learn to let people give to you, one of the ways I learned was letting the women get their pride and joy. Yeah, I give good head. And I had to lay back, and it took work, believe it or not, to relax into letting women do for me. And just another quick story. I started dating a woman who worked in retail clothing sale. So she was always all day long working with clothes, folding clothes back up, hanging them back on the rack, stuff like that. And I remember she came over to my apartment one time and I'd done some laundry and just had left the clean laundry laying on the back of a couch until I had time to fold it and put it away. And she came in and just started folding my laundry. And I said, don't do that. Stop. And she goes, oh, I like doing it. And I said, oh, again, I thought, all right, she wants to give to me. And so I said, okay. I let her, and she kind of put it in these nice, neat little stacks on my bed, so I could she said, I won't put it away for you, but I like folding it. And I said, I don't think I'm going to put it away. I'm going to leave the nice little stacks right there on my bed because it reminds me that somebody cares about me. Somebody wanted to do something for me, and I let them. So I dated her for quite a while. And after that, whenever I would do my laundry, I would leave the clean laundry on the back of the couch, just because she liked doing it. She really did. She got pleasure out of it, and it forced me to let somebody do something for me. So you're right. This could be challenging because our guilt comes in. We're doing something wrong. They're going to hold it against us. They're going to get mad. They're going to, we're being bad. That makes us like, all the selfish men out there, whatever this story in our head is. So yeah, I encourage your listeners to, number one, practice making their needs a priority. Practice giving to themselves, filling their own bucket. Then what they give to other people comes from the overflow. It's not coming because they're empty and needy and want someone else to fill the bucket. Take responsibility, start doing good things for you, and surround yourself with people who want to give to you and let them. Practice letting people give to you. And it makes us less needy, less resentful. We feel more loved, more lovable. We can give to others from the overflow. It's healthier. And so, yeah, this is such an important practice to work on that being a good receiver.
I still struggle with the getting head thing because I'll sit there.
Work on it, man.
Yeah,
work on it.
I still have to I'll even do this with my body language. I'll be like, oh shit, I should probably eat her out right now or something, right? But instead, I'll be like, remember. Is it weird that I think of you when I'm getting head? I'm like, remember what Dr. Glover said? Remember what he said? Just fucking receive it. Don't fucking, don't freak out. And I'm like, I put like one hand like this, just relax. My body's relaxed.
Yeah,
but I'm still just like,
your body's rigid as a board.
Yeah. It's like that. Yeah. I'm like, fuck, dude.
Yeah. So this is therapeutic recovery is learning to let a woman take pride, in giving you good head. And it is, and I tell the story because of course guys will find it kind of funny and relate to it. And it's a little bit crass, but it really was part of my own personal recovery work. I've got to relax and let people give to me and enjoy the gifts that they want to give to me. Because it's not fair that I do all the giving, right? That's not fair. Why would I rob them of their chance to have pleasure in giving as well? And then you can have more reciprocal relationships where the giving goes back and forth and everybody is getting benefit from it. And those are the funnest, best relationships. Doesn't matter, again, if it's at work, with your best friend, with the woman you're with, when there's a back and forth giving and a flow, and everybody feels blessed in the process. So keep working on the blowjobs. Keep reminding yourself, Dr. Glover says, relax and let her give me head. Dr. Glover, repeat that mantra. Put a whiteboard up in your bedroom that says, relax, let her give head. Let her have pleasure. So, and the women will go, what?
Yeah, no, I'm going to be like, she's going to be sucking my dick. I'm going to be like, remember what Dr. Glover said? Remember Dr. Glover? She's like, wait, what? Who's Dr. Glover? What? No. Just
yeah, nothing, baby, nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. Oh, so the moratorium thing though, that's what also helped me get over my ex quickly. I believe in the book you said you recommended maybe like 3 months or so.
I did 6, and so yeah. Let me tell your people what we're talking about here. We just got done talking about letting women give you head. But the sex is a sexual moratorium that you're talking about, and now I've worked with a number of guys that go on what they call a feminine cleanse, and they can have an overlap to them. The sexual moratorium was in my relationship I mentioned with my second wife. That relationship began as an affair. She and I were both married to somebody else, and we began as an affair, so it was highly sexual. And on our honeymoon night, she said to me, aren't you glad now that we're married, we don't have to pretend to like sex anymore? And I'm thinking, what? I wasn't pretending. That's one of the reasons why I left my wife to be with you. We were having hot sex. And she was pretending. And that's, some of her baggage. And but I was the nice guy. I hadn't started doing my nice guy work yet. And I thought, we'll get through this one. I know she didn't have sex with her ex-husband either, but I'm different than him. We'll still have the sex. So I was in my early 30s, and she was amazingly attractive. And I wanted to have sex with my wife, and with some regularity. And she would have pretty intense negative reactions to my desire to have sex with her. And it often turned ugly at times on her part. Not that I was doing anything hurtful. I would just snuggle up to her and she'd have a reaction. And so that was a big dynamic in the relationship. And like I said, I started going to therapy, and we did couples therapy, and I joined a men's group, and I worked with a therapist that specialized in sexual dynamics. And so at one point, and I did this twice during the marriage, decided to go on a sexual moratorium. So just all sex is off the table. No masturbation, no porn, no fantasy, no sex with my partner, no sexual intrigue of any kind. No trying to bump up next as close to it as you can get without, going over the line. And of course you do, But the ironic thing was my wife never wanted to have sex with me, but every time I went on a sexual moratorium, she became highly seductive and started doing, things like, oh, you want to go take a bath with me? Or, just some other things that kind of think, why don't you ever say this stuff when I'm, want to have sex? But when I'm on a moratorium, all like, oh, yeah, I'm available. No, it's a game. But what it did for me, 2 things really, is that it let me claim my own sexual power, to come to realize my sexual power did not rest in the hands of a woman, or or the body, or the vagina, or whatever the woman. It was my power. So that was really powerful, to realize I'm not dependent on. If I go 6 months without sex, without jerking off, without getting laid, I mean, why would I give that power to any woman to determine if I can or can't have sex? So I claimed my power back. But the other thing that it did, because I was no longer holding out to have sex, it really helped a lot in not giving a fuck whatever she might be pissed off at any given time. Because it's not like, oh, I got to fix this now so she'll be in a better mood later to have sex. If I'm going, we're not having sex later on, I don't have to fix anything. She can be pissed off. And it really helped my nice guy issues a lot in that I talk in the book about nice guys trying to maintain the possibility of availability. That means don't do anything to upset the woman so, so that she'll still want to have sex later on. And actually it's the opposite of what works well. For women, drama is foreplay. If they're all upset and wound up about something, that usually means they're ready to have sex. But we guys are kind of the other side of that. So that moratorium was really helpful in that it really helped me lovingly not give a fuck whatever she might be upset about. And then it let her figure out how to work through all those things she was upset about. And then she'd come out the other side of it. I didn't have to do all that caretaking stuff that we nice guys do. Now, the feminine cleanse that some of my clients and people I know do is similar, and it typically involves no sex, but they also tend to cut out other stuff that for lack of a better term, we'll call the feminines, the stuff we go looking to give us instant gratification. So they'll usually stop drinking, stop looking at porn, maybe, either stop watching television or have just some real clear boundaries. They get just really clear boundaries about the things they do to go just distract themselves or get instant gratification or feel better. And so maybe doing that like 3 months or 6 months. Usually about 90 days is a pretty good start. And that also includes like no flirting, no intrigue, no porn, no fantasy, no masturbation, no rubbernecking, checking women out as they walk by. I mean, you can notice that a woman's a pretty woman, but that's it. That's where it ends. Oh yeah, she was attractive. That's it. No fantasy, no intrigue. And because again, most of us men have given so much of our power over to the feminine, over to women, that you've got the power to make me happy. If I just have a girlfriend, if you just want to have sex with me, then everything's okay. And we trade away our power. We trade away our freedom. We trade away things that are important to us just to get this thing, i.e. the attention or the love or the sex of a woman that, then we've given our power away and they can take everything else away whenever they want. So doing these cleanses and moratoriums are not to necessarily push women out of our life. I'm not advocating that. It lets us have a cleaner relationship with them. And it helps us not give our power and freedom away to them. And it changes the expectations that we have, and we get more realistic expectations of what can a woman do for us and what can't she do for us. It gets us out of that fantasy porn-fueled world of what women can do for us. So have you done the sexual moratorium?
I went on it for 5 months.
Man, you're a rock star.
Yeah. And here's the interesting thing. So I learned when exactly I get triggered to feel the need to talk to a woman, to get that validation, that instant gratification, right, from the attention, even if it's not, it could just be a conversation, not even sex or a date or anything. And what I found is I seek that when I feel like I'm not progressing enough in my career, or if something went wrong in my life, it would just all of a sudden I'd be like, oh, I'm horny, or like I gotta, I'll hit this, I'll text this one girl because she always like responds to me, but I don't give a fuck about her. I don't care about her. But she responds, yeah, but she responds, and I'm like, oh, okay. It's like this temporary bandage just to make me feel like I'm a man, but I'm not being a man. I'm just being a little boy who just wants to feel kind of coddled by this intangible thing that's not even really existent. It's just
to feel like, better right now.
Yeah, to just feel better immediately, especially after a breakup. It's so easy. That's why people say, "Oh, you should go, fuck everybody you can now that you can." And then I did that before, and I was like, "Why do I feel worse when I do that? Right? Why do I feel shitty? And why is it when I jack off, you feel like shit? Why is it every time I feel massive guilt? And then when you said You're the only person I know out of all the thousands, hundreds of thousands of content out there that says to masturbate with fantasy. You're the only person that said don't masturbate with fantasy. Go by the feel
Yeah,
to reclaim your power.
and guys go, well, why would I masturbate then?
Yeah, I've had so many conversations with guys about this, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" But so I did. Now the first time I did that, it was very weird because I'm 30 years old, like 20 plus years of me just looking at shit and not having to, really be present with my body. And then I'm just laying in the dark, just on my back, just like, oh, that's different. Oh, that feels like that there. Wow, because we mindlessly just fucking tug pull our shit, right? But the funny thing is, after I busted a nut the first time, not using fantasy and just going purely off of the feel, I had no guilt for the first time in my life. Masturbating.
Wow.
It was weird. Yeah.
I love that story. Here's the thing. You and I were little boys at one time, and I've raised sons, and little boys start touching their dick when they're little boys. They don't have a goal, right? And they're not fantasizing about anything. It just feels good, right? That's why they do it. But culturally, the majority of us grow up in cultures that tell the little boys, stop playing with yourself, stop touching yourself, and maybe it even gets, it's going to fall off if you don't quit touching it, or you're going to go to hell, So there's all these negative messages that says don't enjoy the pleasure of touching that part of your body. We're allowed to, scratch our head or, touch our stomach or scratch our arm. Our body is filled with sensors that are built for pleasure. I mean, our entire body has, I like the bottom of my feet. I like going barefoot. I like how the floor feels on the bottom of my feet. That feels pleasurable to me, right? Now, nobody's going to say, Robert, you need to put some shoes on. You need to stop getting pleasure from your bare feet being on the cool tile floor. Don't stop that, Robert. Stop it. You're going to go to hell. But we've decided when it comes to, our beans and wieners, when it comes to our balls and dick, or my wife is Mexican, so her salchicho y huevos, her eggs and sausage, we've decided, no, tell the little boys they're not allowed to touch that. But what if, for example, you and I grew up in a culture that just, you touched it because it felt good, and then, 3 minutes later, your attention's gone to something else. And, maybe later on you're lying on the floor and you kind of scoot around a little bit good because it feels good. And, and then your attention goes to something else. We would not get obsessed with it. We would just notice it felt good, and then we'd move on to something else in life. But because we grow up in cultures that get so obsessed with it, don't touch it, hide it. Now all of a sudden, every chance we get, we go hide away somewhere with a fantasy, and we're jerking off. And as you said, once you come, then you go, actually, I feel kind of crappy. And actually, there are, there's evidence that even hormonally, we are going to kind of feel bad for a little while until that we get wound up again. But I want to come back to the point that you made, that when you did the moratorium, one of the things you found out is what are your triggers. And I'm a therapist. I've been a therapist for over 30 years. And people come to me looking for answers. Why do I keep doing these same behaviors? Or what are some different things I could do to get the results I want in life? And one of the things that we don't, most of us don't realize, is that since we were little tiny babies, little children, we've been trying to maximize feel good and minimize things that feel bad. So when we have uncomfortable feelings, as little babies, we try to find ways to make those uncomfortable feelings go away. Maybe we suck our thumb. Maybe we cry to get attention. Maybe we just sleep. Maybe we eat. But we learn to do things to make uncomfortable feelings go away. We all grow up to be adults. And what we don't realize is all of us have a thermostat inside our body. Like, I see your thermostat right there behind you on the wall. Now, if it's a good thermostat, you will never notice if the room gets too hot or too cold. Because if it's a good thermostat, as soon as it creeps up a little bit, it'll turn on the air conditioning. If it goes down a little bit, it'll turn on the heat. And you'll never notice the difference. We have thermostats like that in our body. As soon as we begin to feel physically or emotionally uncomfortable, before we can even be aware of the discomfort, the emotional thermostat we have wired into us says, go do this, go look at some porn, go get something to eat, have another bottle of beer, go get that woman to talk to you, go do something nice for her. Whatever our own ways are of distracting ourselves from our feeling states. Television does a great job. Pot does a great job. Alcohol does a great job. Porn does a great job. Masturbation does a great job. Codependency does a great job. And when you did this moratorium, what you found was where those discomforts were in your body, and you started to notice the emotional state before the thermostat kicked in with your habitual behavior. See, by doing the moratorium, you got rid of the habitual behaviors, which then let you start tuning into your body and go, oh, now, because like, for example, I remember when I was doing the sexual moratorium, I remember one time I was sitting in my office, and I worked in one of these buildings where, they just had a lot of small offices, and you could rent an office, and there was a secretary that was out front that kind of served, all the offices. Actually, and what it was is it was actually the owner's wife. And I remember one time I was sitting and had my door open, and I just noticed out of the corner of my eye that she walked by. And I didn't even think anything of it. Just was just a very, somebody, she walked by, and I caught enough of a glance that I knew it was the owner's wife. And then like about 45 seconds, a minute or two later, I started feeling horny. I started feeling aroused. And because I was on my sexual moratorium and I'd learned to start paying attention to feeling states rather than just automatically doing something to medicate it or act on it, I asked myself the question, why am I feeling aroused right now? I'm sitting at my desk working on a client file or something. Why am I aroused? And then it dawned on me, oh, the owner's wife just walked by, had on, a short skirt. And I didn't even have a thought about it other than it did get into my unconscious brain that she kind of swished by in a short skirt with some legs showing. And now a little bit later, I'm feeling aroused. But if I hadn't been, doing the moratorium, I wouldn't have connected the two. The arousal would have set in, and I would have found whatever my typical pattern is to go dissipate it, medicate it, aggravate it, whatever. And once I just realized, oh, I'm feeling aroused because the owner's wife just walked by in a short dress, short skirt, whatever. And I go, oh, that's all it is. And then it was gone. That was it. Done and gone. I went back to work. And so that moratorium gave you the same tools to start noticing the stuff on the inside before the thermostat kicks in and you just go try to make it go away in one way or another. So it's a great tool to have to help you get what you want in life and not keep doing the things that don't take you in the direction you want to go.
Yeah, because a lot of men, what they do is they go out every weekend, they get drunk, they go to clubs, they go to bars, and they try to, they talk about what's your body count, how many girls have you gotten, did you get laid, blah blah, and it's all because they don't have a set path in life. They don't have a goal. They don't have a mission. So many men do this, and they're really like, oh, I'm a player. Huh? Oh my god. And I'll talk to these so-called players because people don't talk to them like that. And I'll say, you're really not that happy, are you? Huh? You're not. You're not. And then they'll be like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you go out, you get pussy, but you're not that happy. And then they'll say, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess you're right. They'll admit it. They'll actually admit the truth. But society looks at these so-called players as like they glorify them, as if like they're the man. And then if I like or we go on a sexual moratorium, they're like, well, that's weird. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you have a fantasy? Why wouldn't you look at porn? And this is such a key point because nowadays in I'll just call it hookup culture, that, whether, you can swipe right, you can go and, you can get instant gratification out there and everybody, learns how to do pickup and everybody's hooking up. And the funny thing is, statistically, for the first time in history in the United States, over half of all adults under 30 are single. right? So all these skills that guys and women get are not actually getting them into a relationship. And the majority of all single adult males report that they've not had sex in over a year. So, it makes you wonder, is this really taking us in the direction? Because here's the deal, whether we don't, most of us don't realize this, but we are evolving animals. Um, we think we're something special, but we've evolved like every other animal. And for at least 1.5 million years of human evolution, this is post primate part of what we evolved from, right? When we were walking upright and looking kind of Neanderthal and stuff like that, our ancestors were tribal. They lived in small tribes, maybe 20 to 50 to 100 people, probably somewhat related, and they hunted, they gathered, they traveled, looking for the where okay, there's fresh food here we can find, there's fresh berries, or here there's a lot of game. And we only started staying in one place and growing stuff about 10,000 years ago, and that's when what I call an ownership mentality of relationship and sex began to start. For 1.5 million years of our human evolution, we were tribal and we were communal, meaning the tribe shared everything. And the survival of the tribe depended on that. The survival of the individuals depended, everybody shared. So, nobody hoarded a bunch for themselves. That in tribes, that's a sin to hoard anything. And the sex was also communal. If you think about it, Mother Nature likes lots of penises and lots of vaginas. That does Mother Nature's bidding. So in the tribes, every man had access to every woman had access to every man, and that was good, right? That created the perfect storm for Mother Nature for humans to keep evolving and procreating. Now, so for about 1.5 million years, if we were tribal, by the time, we were adolescents and started, being sexual, we would have had access to every other woman in the tribe along with every other man. And that's just how it was. But then about 10,000 years ago, our brilliant forefathers thought, oh, let's quit doing it that way. Let's just start settling down and owning stuff. I'll own a piece of property. I'll own a cow. I'll own a tree. I'll own my wife. And I'll make sure nobody else gets access to my wife. And, my wife's going to make sure no other woman gets access to me. And all of a sudden, we created this ownership mentality that we now call monogamous relationships. And I'm in a monogamous relationship. I'm not opposed to them, but I tell people they're not natural. That's not how we evolved. They're very challenging. That's why they don't tend to work well. So bringing it fast forward to where we are, in the 21st century, we still have that evolutionary DNA in us to want to put our penis in every vagina. But what happens is because that availability is not there on the scale it was, when we were, primal or evolving in tribes. We still have that drive. That's why we're driven to porn, because it does give that same kind of variety. But then we kind of get into that whole hookup culture. And I actually think it's good for a guy to have comfort that he can interact with women and that he's comfortable, walking through the open doors of sexual opportunity. I didn't particularly find it fulfilling to do it, on and on, like as you've acknowledged. I got good at it. And then kind of once you get good at it, you go, yeah, okay, I got good at it. And I think every man should get good at feeling comfortable with women, interacting with women. But then what most of us at some point realize, I actually just like better having a trusting, comfortable relationship with one other person. And I'm not advocating we all got to be monogamous. I mean, there's lots of ways of doing this. But just kind of the indiscriminate going out and scoring, just, are the guys even enjoying the sex? Are they even sober enough to remember it or to function? What guy gets 2 or 3 drinks in him. You got whiskey dick. He probably, while they're telling us, oh, I scored. Yeah, you probably didn't even get it up. You had too much to drink.
3 strokes flat.
3 strokes flat. Exactly.
Real story. True story.
Yeah, we all had that experience. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that it is wired into us to want to connect sexually. It is wired into us to desire variety. And the way that technology has just bombarded us in the 21st century is kind of like we're wired to crave carbs, carbohydrates. But our ancestors didn't get many carbohydrates. You know, they got a few berries in season. And then they gorged on those berries and they fattened up a little bit. And then they didn't have any more carbs, you know, for 3 months or 6 months or maybe even, you know, close to a year. And they had to live on that. Now we still have that same wiring to crave carbs, but carbs are fucking everywhere. So we're binging on carbs all the time, and we're doing the same thing around sex. We're wired to want that sexual variety and to take full advantage of it when it's available to us. But now it's there all the time. And it's like, just like we have to learn to consume carbs consciously, we have to learn to use our sex consciously as well to be happier and to have the life that we really want.
And you know, this whole during the sexual moratorium, have you heard of TikTok? Social media
It's
platform.
a
It's like Instagram.
Chinese social media that all the little kids are using, right?
Yeah.
And they're stealing all their data, like Facebook can't get away with anymore.
Yeah, yeah, kind of like that. But it's actually very popular with everybody now. A lot of adults use it. A lot of everybody. Before it was just children. So I actually, again, during the sexual moratorium, I developed a large following out of nowhere, and then all these women started
On TikTok.
on TikTok. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
went from 5,000 to 180,000 in just 2 months, maybe something like that.
While you were on a sexual moratorium.
Yeah, while I was on a sexual moratorium, funny enough.
Okay.
And
Well, I have an explanation, but I want to hear the rest of your story.
yeah, and then they started to these women started to contact me and say, "Oh, you're so hot," or like, "Come here," or like, there's even some. I'm in LA, and they'd say, "Hey, we should hang out sometime." And before all this, I would have just my mind would have exploded. Oh my god! Oh, I gotta hit them up. I gotta contact them. I gotta get I gotta get it in.
How
But
many thousand women were following you?
there's a lot. There's
A
a lot.
lot.
It's a weird thing because I don't that doesn't happen to me in real life. I have to talk to them, you know. But because of the sexual moratorium, because it taught me when I get triggered to feel this need for validation, I was able to. It was exciting at first, but I didn't chase it. I didn't take it really any further. I just recognized it for what it was, and I appreciated it. And then I just continued to do what I wanted to do in terms of my career and just produce it. Just the things that actually bring me joy, like you were
Yes.
talking about. Yeah. So your book also prepared me for this random growth out of nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me explain why that happens. I probably wouldn't have understood this a while back, but I think there's a very rational explanation for it. Can we talk about masculine and feminine energies?
Oh,
You want to go down that road?
Yes.
All right. And I get there's a lot of sensitivities out there about masculine, feminine, and I'm not trying to say, lock anybody into you should be this way. But we've all got, you and I both have a masculine side and a feminine side. And most women out there nowadays live in their masculine side a lot. And a lot of the guys I work with, like me, kind of strong feminine side. But let's just break it down. Let's just do something real simple, kind of a yin and yang of masculine and feminine. And it helps explain this dynamic. The masculine, in my very simple model, does. The masculine penetrates. So whether it's physically penetrating a woman, whether it's physically penetrating the world with your presence, with the gift you give to the world, with your actions. So it's action oriented. The feminine is done too. The feminine is penetrated. So you think sexually, it's done too and penetrated by the masculine. And that is how the feminine is filled and feels satisfied, is through being open and receiving. So the masculine is doing and putting in it, penetrating the world, giving to the world. The feminine is being done too by the world. Now, this can be pleasurable, it can feel wonderful, and it can be terrible. That's why we have #MeToo. A lot of feminine creatures get done to in ways that don't feel good to them. And so that's why a lot of women are real guarded and protected, because they've been poked and done to by a lot of really unconscious men. Maybe starting with Uncle Joe or some cousin, and then every other man that hit on them the rest of their life. So what happens is when we men, we fairly masculine creatures, we've got a masculine and feminine side. Let's say most of us men, lean towards having more of a masculine, energetic self. So we're gonna, if we are living with passion, if we are penetrating the world, if we're giving our gift, whatever that is, being our best self, that's penetrating the world. That's putting a dent in the universe. And what happens is when we're doing that, that becomes magnetic to the feminine. The feminine is everything that's not nailed down. Is money, is opportunity, is adventure, is dogs, cats, babies, is women, is pussy, is everything that's not nailed down is feminine. And the feminine, magnetically, yin and yang, polarity wise, is drawn to the masculine polarity of doing. Right. So if you are doing, and especially doing it consciously, embodiedly, open-heartedly, making a fucking difference in the world that means something, all things feminine are going to be attracted to that. Dogs are, everywhere I go, dogs come and lay down at my feet. I'm not making that up. And there's just something about my presence, my consciousness, that attracts that feminine dynamic. When I started really living in this way, in my late 40s and in my 50s, I'm in my 60s now. My wife is 22 years younger than me. Everywhere we go, women are paying attention to me and hitting on me and trying to get my attention. And my jealous Latina wife is always pointing out these women. And she's right. I see it. And most of them are even younger than she is. I don't do anything. I mean, you're looking at me. I'm an average looking guy. There's nothing special about me. But I live with a conscious presence of I'm making a fucking difference in the world. I get up every day and I make a difference in the world. Energetically, that's very attractive to the feminine. Now, that's why when you didn't give a fuck about the feminine, right? And you were penetrating the world, putting a dent in the universe, chasing excellence in your life, the feminine just started just flowing to you and just started coming to you. Now, here's where most men, especially nice guys, why they struggle with women and with all things feminine, is because what happens is we are not living in our best self. We're not being in that conscious masculine that penetrates the world. We're off looking at porn, playing video games, smoking dope, trying to get approval, just whatever. And we have this big emptiness inside of us. And we then go looking to all things feminine. That's why the reason for a feminine cleanse or sexual morph, all things feminine. Food, porn, drugs, video games, women. We look for all these things feminine to come fill our bucket up. And the way I tell guys to think of it this way is that the feminine in us and the feminine in a feminine creature is a big empty bucket with a hole in the bottom that wants to be constantly filled. Okay, so think about this for a minute. If because you are not filling your own bucket, we talked a little bit about that, making your needs a priority, surrounding yourself with people that help you get your needs met, living in that conscious masculine, penetrating the world. If you're not doing that, your bucket is just getting emptier and emptier all the time. And when it gets empty, the feminine in us wants to go find instant gratification. The drugs, the alcohol, the porn, the video game, a hot woman paying attention to us. Now, what we men don't realize is that is not at all attractive to a feminine creature. These feminine creatures that we're wanting to be attracted to us, remember, they're a bigger, emptier bucket with a bigger hole in the bottom of it than even us, because their feminine is a more dominant part of who they are. They're looking to be filled, and guess what they want to be filled with? They want to be filled with that masculine presence that's putting a dent in the universe. And then they know that that same presence can put a dent in them in a way that feels good. If we're coming to them from our needy, empty bucket saying, like me, fill me up, want to go out with me, want to have sex with me, blah, 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 blah. My guys will think I'm so cool if you hang out with me, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing to polarity wise attract that feminine into that place. But when we lovingly don't give a fuck if they notice us, when we're not even noticing that they notice us because our eyes are so focused on our purpose and our passion and our mission and giving our gift, and that is energizing us and filling us up, all of a sudden you look around, you go, hey, I got women checking me out everywhere I go. And not because you got better looking or got younger or got buffer or got more money is because you got more presence about you, more masculine presence. And just the yin and yang of that is so fucking attractive to the feminine. So that's my explanation of why you got all these women following you on TikTok.
And it's funny you say that because the videos, I made a video series called Confessions of a Former Fuckboy. So
Former
basically,
fuck boy.
yeah,
I gotta go find that. I gotta Google that, man.
yeah. So what I decided to do is literally what you said. I decided to not give a fuck because I said, look, I'd rather die on my feet than on my knees like a bitch. So instead of being like these other creators, content creators that make content, which is obviously pandering, and it's not transparent or real or honest or authentic, I decided, well, fuck it. I'll double down and run towards myself even further. So I'll say things that I would say to my friends. So I decided to get very blunt and honest about how I used to manipulate women. Cause I started with pickup.
Yeah.
I don't do it anymore, but I started with it, right? Like you said. And that one video, it's like a 12-part series and people keep begging for it. But that one video is what changed my whole social media career. It just blew everything up because I would say things like I would pretend like I'm insecure about something so that the female would start to try to caretake me.
Oh,
right. But
like
I'm
like a little
her.
puppy. Yeah,
Exactly. But I know exactly what I'm doing. Or saying things like, I don't think you want to get too close to me. She's like, why? I don't know.
I'm really wounded.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like that. Yeah, and I don't want to hurt you. You're a really nice person, and I still.
And they're going, I could fix that. I could help that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I would, or like I even shared that I used to, when I'm having sex with a girl while she's orgasming, I say, look into my eyes so that she'd associate my face with the orgasm. So anytime she'd look at me, it triggered this pleasure feeling. I learned it from this guy named like Player Pimp or something on YouTube.
Well, it actually that comes out of something called NLP, neuro linguistic programming. Is that you anchor one thing to the other thing, and they become associated with each other.
Yeah.
A lot of the player guys, pickup guys, borrow a lot out of NLP and a few other little areas like that are actually valid in psychology. They actually work.
Yeah, but the because I didn't give a fuck. And I just shared myself. I was like, if people want to think I'm an asshole or piece of shit, so be it. But at least I can live my truth and live myself the way I want to live. Because we're all going to fucking die. So what does it matter at the end of the day? They're not going to remember. Oh, remember that guy? He was talking about how he used to manipulate women. They're not going to fucking think about me. You know, funny enough, I had thousands of comments, thousands from females saying, it makes me angry that you used to do that, but I really appreciate it. And it makes sense.
Yeah. And again, there's so many layers to all of this. Is it going back to that feminine, even going back to our tribal times, the feminine has always been security oriented, right? And because they're more vulnerable, they're still more vulnerable. Ask any woman if she feels safe walking the streets alone in her neighborhood at night. And no woman does. They're vulnerable. Again, that's the whole #MeToo thing. Women are vulnerable by nature. And for one thing, the guys don't get this. I've been a marriage therapist for over 30 years. And I tell guys, women can handle an uncomfortable truth. They can handle a difficult truth. But they can't handle being lied to. I tell guys, you fuck with a woman's trust, you fuck with her lust. So for example, you tell a woman a difficult thing. She may, I see you repeating that.
Yeah, I like that.
Fuck with her trust, you're going to fuck with her lust. So you tell her a difficult truth. And I've had those same experiences where I've got a couple of scars on my chest. And I dated a woman after my divorce, and she was into is it Anne Rice, the woman that writes the vampire stuff? And so she was into all this vampire stuff. Oh. And she was kinky. And she said, would you be willing to let me cut on you a little bit and suck your blood while I fuck you? Now, for reals, I got a few little scars still on my chest from that. I remember going to the dermatologist, during that relationship, and a woman dermatologist about my age said, "What's that?" And I told her, I said, is there any precautions I need to be taking? She says, well, she gave me a few precautions, but I told her outright, I got a girlfriend. She's kind of kinky. She likes to suck on my blood and fuck me. And so anyway, fast forward, that relationship ended, and I was in a new relationship. And I remember with this new relationship, I don't know, we hadn't been together for very long. We were having sex, but it was really pretty new. And I remember we were like sitting in my bedroom, and I think we probably had sex, and I was talking to her about my desire to be honest and transparent and be an open book with her. And I said, I just found that list of women just really open up and trust and be vulnerable and be penetrated and be fucked to God because they trust. And so I'm telling her, this, kind of giving her my little spiel about wanting to be honest with her. And just while we're having this conversation, she said, what are those little marks on your chest? And I thought, oh shit. and I said, and I lied to her. I said, just, I was a kid, playing in the woods and shit, falling out of trees and getting cuts and stuff. And she, okay. And then she like got up and go in the bathroom. And I thought, fuck, I just gave her this little speech about being honest, and then I lied to her, right? And so I got up, went in, and I think we're both mostly naked or all naked because, we'd been in bed, and she was done in the bathroom. And I said, hey, I got to tell you something. I said, I just lied to you. I said, I just told you I'm going to be honest with you. You asked about the little scars on my chest, and I said, I lied to you. I said, because I was uncomfortable. And I said, I got those scars because of a former girlfriend who liked to cut on me, suck my blood while she fucked me. And she just looked at me and she said, that's kind of kinky. And she said, someday I'll tell you about running through the cemetery naked with, a boyfriend. And I said, yeah, we'll have to try that sometime. So like, she didn't react. She just said, hey, I got my own kinky stories. And that opened the relationship up to actually be more honest and more transparent and to be able to be more kinky with each other because we didn't have to hide anything. So, the women, even if it's a difficult truth, like now she's got to have that in her head that every time she sees those scars, some other woman was cutting on me while she fucked me, but that never came up again. She never like brought that up in a negative way, but the truth opened it up. And so, yeah, when we can be that honest and a woman knows we've told them a difficult truth, the woman goes, I can trust that guy more because I don't like the truth he told me maybe, but I know what it took to tell a difficult truth. Knowing I might have a reaction, I can trust that kind of guy that was willing to tell me the truth, even knowing I might have a reaction to it. That's powerful. That's a powerful way to penetrate the feminine, is with that kind of truth that you don't hold anything back from them. And you don't let them beat you up with it later on either. But yeah, when you showed up and just told the truth on those videos, women are going, I want to be with a guy that tells that kind of truth. They weren't even listening so much to what the truth was, other than I want to be with that kind of guy that can be that open, that transparent, and that trustworthy.
That makes so much sense because unapologetically being yourself is,
yeah,
right? Like that's probably one of the sexiest things for a female.
That is sexy as fuck for a female. The book I'm working on right now, the working title is Positive Emotional Tension. Kind of the sub-working title's been Shut Up and Fuck Me. Because I've heard that so many times when I'm just being my unapologetic self. And that's actually one of the chapters in the book that I'm actually right at the point of writing that part right now, that one of the ways to make yourself irresistibly attractive to the feminine, and let's say especially to women, is to be yourself, unapologetically comfortable in your own skin, living life on your terms, doing it your way, and that is attractive. Now, a lot of guys will tell me that, well, no, everybody says just be yourself, but that isn't getting me laid. And I said, when was the last time you let anybody see the real you? When were you the real you? Do you even know the real you anymore? Are you hiding so much of you and pretending so much of you and trying so hard to be something that you're not, or hiding the things you don't want? Does anybody see the real you? And most guys that say that being the real me doesn't get me laid because they're not being the real them. they go, well, I'm too short, or I'm too chubby, or I don't have enough money, or I don't have any experience. No, those aren't the things getting in your way. The things getting in your way is what's between your own ears that isn't letting you live life on your terms. And like your examples, when you said, I'm just going to be me. I'm just going to be, I call it what you see is what you get kind of guy. Nothing hidden, nothing half-assed. Here I am, world. I'm living warts and all. I'm living life on my terms. And there's women out there going, that's sexy as fuck. But when you're hiding everything, what's there to be sexy as fuck about you? There's nothing to create any real interest or tension or passion or polarity.
That's so true. You know what's funny too? Because I used to, so in the beginning, I moved back home with my family 2 years ago to start pursuing my dreams. I moved back, just left my marketing career behind to really just make my dreams come true because I was so unhappy, right? And before, when I would live with my parents, beforehand, years ago, I would hide it.
Yeah.
Just completely. And I literally tell people, thousands of people in my videos and people and like girls I talk to, I would say, hey, just letting you know, yeah, I live at home with my mom. Like she makes me Korean food sometimes. It's really nice, yeah. And they know the reason why, but I'll just be honest, like, because I'd rather be me and let them know exactly where I am, what I'm doing. Because my dream isn't to live with my mom and sister my whole fucking life. It's just a temporary thing. But if I'm ashamed of it right now, then I'm gonna be ashamed of myself and my journey and where I'm going. So
let's give a tool to your listeners. Let's give them a tool.
Yeah.
Whatever you have shame of, whatever you think you need to most hide from the world and from women, find a way to present that to the world with as much humor and as much self-acceptance as possible. And even like, for example, when I broke up with my previous girlfriend several years back, I asked my mom, I said, can I move into your basement? Now, my mother's got like a $2 million house overlooking a lake, a giant big house, right? My dad's dead. It was her living alone. I got the whole basement. The basement's bigger than most people's houses. And so I've got I still to this day have a bedroom and an office in the basement, no less, the basement of my mother's house. But I sit at my basement office window and look out on a beautiful lake across from Seattle. And I live now in Puerto Vallarta, but I get back up. My mom's 85. I try to get up and see her as often as I can. And so, I've got my room there. I thought, okay, what a great thing to tell women. Yeah, I live in my mother's basement. And had say with a smile on your face. So I'm going to tell everybody listening, take whatever you would have the most shame that some women know about you and find a way. Hell, walk up and tell women that. I don't care. But find a way that you get comfortable in your own skin. An example of that, when I started dating in my late 40s, I came out of a pretty sexless marriage. I'd taken antidepressants to get through it the last few years. That killed my sex drive. Just total erections were gone. I get out there, I'm in my late 40s, pushing 50, men's sex drive starts declining after about 18. And so, and all these sexual opportunities were presenting themselves to me. And so, I was exploring like Viagra or this or that. And mainly I just had a lot of anxiety. What if I don't get it up? What if I can't keep an erection? I don't want to say no to these sexual opportunities. I mean, I'd lived the last 14 years without sexual opportunity. And I struggled with this for months. Oh, how do I deal with this? Because opportunities kept presenting. And finally, I decided I will just tell women the truth. So before clothes started to come off, I just say, hey, let's talk for a minute. I said, I just tell them, sometimes with a new partner, I don't always get hard, don't always stay hard. And I said, how about we just get naked, roll around, enjoy each other's bodies, and do like they do on the Animal Channel. And every woman ever said that to you, see the look of relief on their face. Oh, I don't have to perform. We're just going to enjoy it. We're just going to go find out about each other's bodies. Now, that actually, I felt really vulnerable telling women, hey, I don't always get, an erection, don't always keep an erection. That's not the thing you're supposed to tell women before you fuck them, right? But what I found is by being that vulnerable, they felt safer, their trust and respect went up. We started as having more fun. I got the anxiety out of my head and things just worked fine. So I took my area of vulnerability and just put it out there, broadcast it. Now, a side effect of this that I didn't see coming, but it goes back to our tribal existence again, is that every woman, going back to tribal times, has always been in competition with every other woman for the scarce resources of a man's attention or what a man might provide because their survival depended on it. Women still tend to be emotionally in competition with each other. It's why they call each other derogatory names. It's why they gossip. It's why they put each other down. It's that whole competition thing. What I didn't realize was when I told a woman, the nice guy in me thought, oh, if I tell her when I'm with a new partner, they're going to think I'm just a player, blah, 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 blah. That's all my noise. But by telling them, sometimes with new partners, I don't always get hard or stay hard. All of a sudden, these women were bringing their fucking A game to make sure I got hard and stay hard. They're thinking in their head, those fucking bitches couldn't keep him hard. I'm going to be the bitch that gets him hard and keeps him hard. You know, so it played in actually to their own inner competition. And I'm going, oh, I didn't see this one coming, but this is a nice side effect. I'm going to start telling all women, yeah, when I've been with other women, I just couldn't get it hard. And now they're going to be the ones to make sure that they got it done. But the vulnerability of it, I just put it out there instead of trying to hide the fact that I'm anxious, I'm not going to get a hard on. And once I quit hiding it and just owned it, number one, hard-ons and anxiety don't go very well together. Guys, you need to know that. Anxieties, hard-ons, they're on separate nervous systems in our body, and they don't play well together. So anything to lower your anxiety, and the best way I know to do that is be your fucking self. Be you, warts and all. Be willing to fail, fall flat, fail forward, whatever. Be you, and shit just works better.
Yeah, and it just feels so much better, and it allows you to find people that actually like you for you, friendships as well.
Boom, exactly. Women, anybody, dogs, cats,
Yeah.
people that like you just for you. And now you're not trying to figure out all the time, well, if I don't do this, are they going to quit liking me? Do I have to keep doing that to keep them liking me? You just get to keep being you, and they like you the way you are.
Yeah, and that's the best thing, and that is the biggest difference between pickup and just what we're talking about now. I have more success being 100% myself than when I was doing pickup. Now, I attribute that to me not being as afraid of rejection, because I was definitely afraid of it. And I genuinely believe that men are more afraid of rejection from females than almost anything in the world.
Yeah.
They'll change the way they act. They'll even play sports differently. Like, oh my God, I got to make this free throw.
There's women watching. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, what do I do? So,
and the thing with pickup is that I'm not a fan per se for a number of reasons. One, I think it's very invasive of women. And there's a reason why, again, women have #MeToo, is because we men tend to be invasive, especially the hot ones. But there's a lot of reasons that I'm not a fan, but there are some things I like about it. One is it maybe it's a vehicle to get men, out of their mother's basement, off of playing World of Warcraft, and get out there and actually have some interaction with real life people, real life women. And if it's taught right, because there's a lot of teachers out there that teach approach and teach interaction with women, and they're teaching men how to get grounded, how to move the energy through their bodies, how to release their anxiety, how to be authentic with women. So there's good teachers out there. And so if it gets a guy out there and just getting out of his comfort zone, leaning into his fear and anxiety, and practicing having interactions, you do get more comfortable. You get a skill set. You get better at it. But almost every teacher I've known, I guess I can't say that universally, but a lot of the people out there, like Neil Strauss, they started out in pickup, and by the time they kind of get good at it and get to the end, they go, yeah, I think it's just better to be yourself and have authentic relationships. Almost every pickup guy ends up getting to where just be authentic, just be you, And so, okay, if that's what it takes to get you out of your house and get you talking to women and getting comfortable and letting go of your anxiety and getting some skills and some social skills, great. But just realize that it's a developmental phase that a healthy male moves through and gets to the other side and says, all right, I got those skills. I know I can get laid. I know I can get numbers. I know I can talk to women. No, I'm going to get back to work and focus on what's really important. And then when these doors of opportunity open up around me and the women just are being magnetically drawn to me, I can be the decider. I can pick, and I can keep being real and just being me and stay focused on my purpose at the same time. And so it's just part of a developmental stage. But some of us, some of us boys get stuck in a developmental stage and never move on from it.
Another thing that really, I'm telling you, your book is like my Bible. I'm not religious anymore, but I believe in Dr. Glover. So
I keep preaching it, man.
yeah,
Preach
yeah.
it. Amen. Amen.
Dr. Glover, thank you for. So when you brought up that a lot of nice guys, they either have a lack of a relationship with their father,
Mm-hmm.
or their father just was never around, period, right? And
Yeah.
my dad, he was a workaholic. He was there, but he wasn't there. He was only there to
Yeah.
punish me, just like abuse, like physically abuse me, my mom, whatever, all that stuff. And I told myself, and you brought it up in the book too, like I said, I will never be like him. I'll be
Yeah. Me
completely
too.
opposite of him for
Me
everything.
too.
And then your book, you said that we try so hard to be opposite of our fathers, but in actuality, we're way more similar to our fathers than we think. And then you had an
Yeah.
activity. So the thing I love about your book too is you have like, I think 49 activities, 48, 49 activities throughout the
Yeah. It's
book.
a bunch of breaking free exercises. Yeah.
Exactly for in each chapter. And I did the exercise where you wanted us to make a chart with, we cut the paper in half. Left side is our dad, right side's me, and then we write down the characteristics or whatever, right? And
Mm-hmm.
funny enough, as opposite of my dad as I thought I was for freaking 30 years, like 98% of it is we're exactly the same person, literally.
Yeah. And
It blew
that's
my mind.
good.
Yeah.
And yeah, most men, most of us men, no matter what, have to do our dad work at some point. We got to do our mother work as well, but we got to do our dad work. And if we've been trying to be different from our fathers, all right, dad had a dick. Well, I better not have a dick. I bet, if dad was this way, I better not be that way. And they say in the 12-step programs, like for Alcoholics Anonymous, that the opposite of crazy is still crazy. I mean, if you just go, if this is crazy over here and you just do the exact opposite, you're just reacting to crazy. There's no sanity in that. And so trying to be the opposite of our fathers or different than our fathers means that dad is still basically the reference point of how we live our life. Well, I got to be the opposite of dad. So dad's still fucking in charge, right? And being the opposite of dad probably doesn't serve us. And everything that in the ways we're like dad, we have to compartmentalize that or try to get rid of that or hide it. And the truth is, the more accepting we can become of our fathers, the more accepting we can become of ourselves. And our fathers, I don't know if you've read the book Iron John by Robert Bly, but I read that years and years and years ago. It's kind of one of the first books in the whole men movement. And he says in there, our fathers, he says we got to take our dads off the pedestal and out of the gutter. And he says no dad was as amazing as we might have thought he was as a kid, and no dad is as terrible as we thought that he might have been. So we got to get a realistic relationship with our father. We got to get to know our dads as adults. Who is our dad? Like my mother told me as a kid, I'm training my sons to be different from their father. And she later apologized for that. She said that wasn't a good thing to do or say to my sons. And so I appreciate that she owned that. Trying to get me to be different from my dad was not healthy or loving. And I got to know who my dad was before he died. And I'm grateful for that. And I saw his limitations as a human. I saw the ways that were similar. I saw the ways that were different. And so it let me accept him, let me accept myself, and it let me join more broadly into the tribe of men. That I wasn't trying to be different than all those jerks out there, all the men that I'd heard women complain about, that I heard my mother complain about, that were just being assholes or, chauvinistic pigs or patriarchal or toxic masculine. I'm not trying to be different from all of that. I'm accepting my place in that tribe of all men, all imperfect men, and then I get to have my tribe. and I get to accept me. And going back to I just get to be myself. 'Cause I'm not trying to be different. Like, I'm not trying to be different from dad or different from all those other jerks I've heard women complain about. I'm being me. And probably at times I'll be a jerk. And at times I'll be like my father in ways that I don't really like, but I don't have to have shame about it either. I can just say, all right, I see that. And we can accept those things about ourselves, work on what we need to work on, but not keep trying to be different.
Yeah, and that really helped me accept because my dad died 10 years ago.
Yeah, my dad did too.
Yeah, but I still had this deal with this thing, but the good thing is you addressed it in the book. Whether they're alive or dead, we have to work through these things and help me accept them more, and also accept myself. Because that made me feel trying to be so opposite of my father made me feel even more guilty about my sexual desires, or just if I got
Yeah,
angry, like, oh no, he was
yeah.
such a temperamental man. If I get angry, that means I'm like him. So I'm not allowed to. Don't feel angry. Don't ever feel angry.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
And
but
so
yeah.
now you get to be you and you get to learn what you need to learn from your anger.
Yes, accepting it, living in it, and understanding it. And actually, so I started a men's group because your book, because you're talking about tribes. We need men that we can trust to really
We
grow
do.
together with.
Good for
You can
you.
go only so far on your own, which I've done for a long time. But
That's
I
the problem
realized,
with us guys. We all think I can do it myself. I can do it myself. No, we can't. We need tribe. We need help.
yeah, and that changed. So we meet every 2 weeks, okay, and we read your book. We read your book. We talk about the activities. We talk about what we learned, and actually, the amount of growth we're all seeing within each other is insane.
Cool.
It's crazy. And another thing I wanted to bring up is that we're all Asian Americans, so our parents are immigrants from Asia, and Asian
Yeah.
culture is very submissive, stay quiet, all this and that. And somebody devil's advocate, some people be like, oh well, what would a white guy understand about? No, it's not a white black. It's not that. The thing is, you understand men and how we operate. Period, and it's universal. It doesn't fucking
Yeah.
matter. So
It
funny
doesn't.
enough, you're not even talking about Asian culture at all, but it's been teaching us how to reclaim our masculinity and work. It's like therapy to work through some of the challenges and heal wounds we've had with our parents, which is it's the parallel is just there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I appreciate you sharing that.
yeah.
That's good to know and I get emails from people all over the world, all over the world. The book's popular in India, it's popular in Australia, it's popular in Europe.
Wow.
A lot of Asians like it. I'm smiling because I was on a Zoom call a little bit earlier today with a friend of mine that I met in a men's program that I'm in. I'm still in a men's program. I go and have a coach and participate in a men's program because I need it. I still need tribe. And this guy's a young guy. He's probably 30-ish. And he's one of the most unique guys I know. I love this guy. And we just got on Zoom and we're chatting this morning and we're talking about the whole Black Lives Matter thing that's going on right now. Now, this guy is unique. He's half black, half white. He was born of artificial insemination to two lesbian mothers.
Wow.
He's telling me today that his biological mother was black and was from, and they lived in Compton in LA for a period of time. His other mother, lesbian, is as white as she can be from, the Midwest and, big white bread family. And so he's raised by lesbian mothers, artificial insemination, half black, half white. And the guy's just one of the just coolest, most perceptive, brightest guys I know. And I said, talk to me. I grew up white bread in a white suburb of Seattle back in the 50s and 60s. And I knew two Asian kids growing up and two black kids in junior high. It was all white people. That's all I grew up. It's all I knew. But when it comes down to just being men, it just strips through all of that. It just strips through. Yeah, you got a different culture. You grew up in a different environment. This guy I'm talking about grew up in a totally different environment than what I'd ever seen. I didn't know anybody being raised by two lesbian moms. But yet we're all talking about the same stuff. We're all talking about how do we show up and be men? How do we be ourselves? How do we own our passion? How do we own our purpose? How do we put that dent in the universe? How do we have tribe? These are the core things that we men, and how do we get laid? You know, these are the core things that we men need each other for.
Like the things that we've shared within the group, things that we were may have been ashamed of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like your book said, it really just relieved us of a lot of anxiety and just like, oh
Oh
crap.
yeah.
So you feel you go do that too? Shit, I didn't fucking know that. Or like because I do stand up and like people think I'm very very confident, but I had to work towards this. But even them, they didn't really know things I've gone through or still go through. I have a lot of insecurities still, right?
Sure.
But by me sharing
I
it,
do too.
yeah.
I don't know who doesn't.
Yeah, and that was actually one of the questions they wanted to know because I'm telling you, we love you. Like you don't know. We know you. You don't know us, but we know you, Dr. Glover.
We got the bro love here. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. It's bro love, but actually, they did want me to ask you two questions if you don't mind me.
Bring the questions on.
Yes, yes. So, as someone who just started the journey to stop being a nice guy,
Mm-hmm.
I find myself slipping back into pre-existing nice guy tendencies if I do not actively and consciously pay attention to my behavior. Uh, do you, Dr. Glover, experience similar struggles today after all these years of constantly working on yourself still? And I know you said you did, but if you could elaborate a little bit more,
Yeah.
please. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. You know, without digging too deep into this part, but I'll answer the question. I think a lot of us are nice guys, partly due to our inherited temperament. That, you know, like my mother likes to always tell the women that I get involved with, at some point she'll tell them, Bobby never did like conflict. And I'm going, yeah, who the fuck likes conflict? You know, why is that such a revelation? I'm thinking, no, I don't like conflict. Some people do. Some people love to fight. Um, and I seem to be attracted to that in women. They like to have a good fight. I'll tell my wife, like I said, I've got this really tough Hispanic Mexican wife, and I'll just tell her sometimes, I said, why don't you, instead of starting a fight with me, like doing this thing to get me, you know, I said, why don't you just tell me, hey, I want to fight? And I'll go, okay, I'll just start yelling at you. You know, let's just skip all the other stuff and go straight to, I'll yell at you, and then, you know, we can fight and you can cry, and then we'll make up and have good sex. So let's just skip the starting the fight. So I don't like conflict. That's my temperament. It's who I am, right? Now, a lot of other things also contributed to my nice guy syndrome. Partly it was a religion I grew up in. Partly it was just, you know, the messages I grew up from society in the 50s and 60s and 70s. Partly my mom was very codependent. I learned to be codependent from her, put up with bad behavior. My dad could be a real jerk. So a lot of this stuff is partly temperament, which we're not going to change, is who we are. And part of it is emotional wiring that's embedded in a very deep part of our brain, because it goes back to usually pretty early in our development as children. So certain things still trigger anxiety in me. Just kind of, my wife will get a look on her face and like, I have this, oh shit, I'm going to die feeling. And she's just this short little Mexican woman, right? And you know, and she loves me dearly, but she just gets a look, and inside I'm in trouble, right? And so, you know, because I've learned to recognize a lot of my triggers, and it's one reason why we've been married about 3.5 years, and about a year into our marriage, that's why I got a coach and got into a men's program. I was still getting triggered. The nice guy in me is kind of like, hey, I'm a good guy. I do everything right. How come you're accusing me of that? How come you're going off on me about this? You know, you shouldn't. But all these covert contracts were still showing up. My anxiety was still getting activated. And so I'm still working on that stuff. And I think as long as we're alive and ticking and stretching ourselves and getting out of our comfort zone, we're going to keep learning stuff about ourselves, and we'll just keep, you know, kind of unraveling this thing. But again, a big part of this has to be, we've got to be willing to accept ourselves enough to be willing to find whatever is trying to find us, right? So like, you know, my wife triggers me in ways that my previous wife didn't. And okay, you know, it's a gift. It's an opportunity to go uncover other stuff that I hadn't uncovered in previous relationships. And, you know, I love her and she loves me. So we're both committed to get to working through that stuff that comes up. And like I said, I've been a marriage therapist for years, and I've bumbled my way through every relationship I've had. We all do. But I say that if we approach our relationships consciously, they're powerful personal growth machines. So every time my wife triggers me, it's an opportunity for me to grow, for me to have more awareness, for me to learn to respond rather than react, for me to rewire my nervous system, for me to put things in a different perspective. Yeah, it's funny as it sounds sometimes, like, when my wife gets that look or withdraws a little bit, I feel myself getting anxious. One of the things I've started doing recently, I'll just make up a little song. I'm in trouble. I'm in so much trouble. Oh no, I'm in trouble. I'm going to be in trouble. This short little Mexican woman's mad at me. I'm in trouble. And then, like when I get done singing my little song, I'll go, she always gets over it. And then, because my anxiety's gone down, we get through it quickly because we're not doing our old dances. So yeah, let's keep working on this shit till the day we die.
That's also a relieving fact, because it's like the more we practice these things, we still feel like I have to be here at all times.
Nah,
we got to dipping. I find myself dipping.
Yeah,
so many
me
times.
too.
Yeah,
me too.
Yeah.
I went to work on a real specific nice guy behavior that was showing up in my earlier relationships, and I really thought I'd gotten a handle on it. And then a few years back, it like I fell back into, to me, a behavior I wasn't proud of. I didn't like. I fell back into it. And I realized, like in any 12-step program, that happens all the time. Some people I really respect, like Scott Peck wrote the book, The Road Less Traveled. It's the best-selling self-help book of all time. He fell back into alcoholism, fell back into philandering. John Bradshaw, who wrote Healing the Shame That Binds You, he fell back into alcoholism. So I fell back into behavior, and I woke up and got conscious and started working on it again. But I've got a good friend who's actually a psychologist as well. And I just said, man, I'm just struggling with how did I fall back into this behavior? It hurt me. It hurt other people. And he just looked at me and he said, Robert, he kind of held out one hand. He goes, Robert, you can be an ass. And he held out his other hand, but you're not an ass. He said, when you can integrate those two things, you'll understand it and you'll move on from it. And it's so simple, is that, okay, we're flawed human beings. We make mistakes. We go unconscious. We do hurtful things. We can be hurtful people, but that doesn't mean we are hurtful people. Doesn't mean we're bad people. And if we can integrate that decent human beings do bad things, do hurtful things, unconscious things, and accept that about ourselves, then we can learn and keep moving forward. And so I keep working on that, is integrating those two things. I can be an ass, but I'm not an ass. And integrating those two things together. Because I can be an ass. I can be a jerk. I can be hurtful. I can be passive aggressive. I can be mean. And I don't like any of those things about myself, but they're not who I am. They're things that at times I manifest, but they're not who I am. And so we have to learn to integrate that.
I do want to bring up that I really wanted this podcast, right? And normally when I have to send a follow-up email, they'll say, "Oh, I apologize for the late whatever." You are the only person that just said, "Oh, you just got straight to the point. Like, you didn't apologize." And the first thing I thought of when I read that, I was like, not that I expected that from you, but like I said, that's the pattern of society, right?
Yeah.
I remember the section of the book where you're basically just saying you don't have to apologize for things you don't have to apologize for. And I thought about it, and I was like, he doesn't have to apologize for this. And I put a smile on my face, and in my group chat, I texted the men's group. I'm like, guys, he didn't apologize. Like, he follows what he says he does. But again, you're right. Why would you have to apologize?
The truth is, I get behind on my email. I don't always answer them.
Exactly.
And when you write,
the one that's trying to get you to be on it, you don't owe me anything.
Yeah. Right? And when you wrote back, I don't know what I said. It was probably something like, "Thanks for getting back to me. Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah, it was. You were like, "Yeah, let's let's do it."
Yeah.
But I was like, wow, there's just a small little thing of action that you did, or the lack thereof, right, of the apology. It really just resonated deeply with me.
And that's actually a piece I've been working on in myself, is to not make basically lame apologies, because any excuse I give is just a fucking excuse. The truth is, I just didn't take the time to reply. That's the bottom line. Why do I need to say anything? Well, I don't even need to say that. You already knew it. I didn't take
we
the
both
time to
know.
reply.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And so, it's just like, yeah, thanks for getting back to me. Let's do it. And it doesn't matter what else I say. The bottom line is, are we going to do a podcast? Are we going to do an interview? Yeah, we're doing it.
Straight to the point, straight to the cut, like no bullshit, right? Which can also lead to more indirect communication and resentment. Like, oh, well, okay, you didn't say this, you did that, like all that bullshit, right? So this was the last question from them.
Okay, what do you got?
What do you tell yourself on days that you were not able to complete one of the recovery activities or not be able to overcome previous nice guy syndromes? And again, I know you did touch on it, but if there's anything else you could bring up about that.
I'm not sure exactly the question.
So basically, the days where you revert back to it, is it just simply like, hey, I forgive myself, it's okay, and acknowledging that and then going right back to it? Is that
what's worked best for me? That's a good question, because again, like the story I was just telling, we all slip, we all fall back, we all go unconscious. Somebody, a teacher that I like, and I like his book, David Data, wrote a book called The Way of the Superior Man, and good book, I highly recommend. He's written several others too. He's a brilliant guy. And I heard him say, I was at a workshop years ago, and he said, you're going to lose conscious awareness about 100,000 times a day. Just get it back 100,000 times a day. So we're all going to have that happen. So my best go-to tool is, I've now got, in fact, after that slip up that I was telling you about a few minutes ago, after that, how did I fall back into these same behaviors again? I realized because I did not have accountability. I did not have a tribe. That's one, as another deciding factor in going to get a coach and going to get back into a men's program. Now I've got out of that men's program, I've made several little different groups of guys that I talk to and meet with regularly. I've talked to 3 of them today, and I have a big decision I have to make right now. And I talked to a group I'm in yesterday, another guy last night, another guy today, to help me get clarity on my decision. So the same thing, when I fuck up, talking about, I get triggered by my wife at times. She'll accuse me of stuff I haven't done, and the nice guy in me, hey, I didn't do that, I'm a good guy. And but about 2 years ago, she didn't even do anything. She just kind of did that female thing of kind of making that look on her face and just kind of like rolling away from me, like, in my mind, like I'm a worthless piece of shit. That's the stuff going on in my head. And we're lying on a bed in our living room. In our bedroom. And I just had bought myself a new Kindle reader. I'd had one for years, and I bought myself another one for my birthday, kind of high-end Kindle reader, because I read a lot, and a leather cover and everything. And had it next to me on the bed. I just had gotten it a couple weeks. I gave it to myself for my birthday, right? And she just does that and rolls over, and without even thinking, I got up. I was so pissed. I just took I threw it at the wall. And here in Mexico, all the houses are made out of concrete. So it hit the wall and sparks flew everywhere, right? And she's like, by this time, looking back over, I thought it was cool. I picked it up, I threw it again, more sparks. A third time, I threw it at the wall. It was, I was so in that, and that's not like me. I don't break shit, and I rarely lose that. And so I just smashed to smithereens that Kindle reader. And the thing is, I didn't have a shame attack about it. I felt bad. I felt bad that I'd busted my reader up. I felt bad that I scared my wife. She got up, got in the car, and drove away. And I just kind of picked the sheets off the bed, emptied everything. I think I took the sheets out and emptied them outside by the street, and put all the sheets into the laundry basket for the laundry. I remade the bed, swept up the floor. The whole of my bedroom, above my side of the bed, because it's concrete wall, still has dents in it. And the first thing that I did after I did that, next day, I got online with some of my buddies and told them exactly what I'd done. Mainly because I just needed to have it out there. And like I said, I didn't have a big shame attack about it. I regretted doing it, but I just thought, all right, I got to learn from this. And my wife, bless her heart, you can see why I love this woman. You know, she comes back. She drove away and came back, and I'd made the bed and everything. It was nighttime, and I think I went downstairs for a while and came up later. I think she'd gone to bed, and she had taken her Kindle reader and put it on my nightstand on my side of the bed because she knew how important it was for me to. And I mean, I thought, bless her heart. You know, it was my fuck up, and she's giving me her Kindle to read. And I said, no, thank you. I appreciate that. But I said, my punishment is that I won't have a Kindle reader for a while. I had my old one, but it was at my mom's house up in Seattle, and I wasn't going to be going up there for a few weeks. So I said, I have to live without. That is my consequence for throwing my Kindle reader. And I said, but thank you. And I gave it back to her. I said, I appreciate that. But the thing I did is I went and called my buddies, right? I told my buddies about it. And it was so funny because then in this like men's program I'm in, another guy in the program posted something on our Facebook page about a month ago. And he'd thrown his phone at the wall and smashed his phone because his wife did something that made him crazy. And one of my buddies, who's actually one of the leaders in this program, he tagged me, said, Robert, maybe you can address this. So I made a video of showing the holes in my wall and talking about what happened. And I said, you know, so then we just turned it into a joke. I said, do you use an overhand pitch or do you use a slide step? And you know, and so we just accepted we're human. We fuck up. We lose it. You know, the biggest cost was the cost of the cell phone and the cost of a reader. And but I've left the holes in my wall just to remind me I'm human. All my friends know about it. I've made a video about it. I'm telling you about it. It's out there in the world. This is how we accept ourselves, be ourselves. And if we can live within our own skin and know that we're not perfect, again, going back to what we talked about, that makes us amazingly attractive, not just sexually to women, but other people want to be close to us. They don't care if we're flawed. They're flawed too. And so to answer that, that question is you just keep working on it and have your tribe, reveal everything. I before we began the interview, I said, you can ask me anything. And I like to say there's nothing about me that at least one person on this planet doesn't know. I've got nothing hidden. I've got nothing secret. Like here, I'm telling you my biggest shame right now that I threw my Kindle reader. So, when we can get comfortable in our own skin and learn to reveal ourselves, it changes everything. And it's one of the most powerful things I know we can do.
I was waiting for this a long time. I can't tell. I was like, is he gonna show up? Like I was so worried. I was like, fuck. And I was messaging my friends. I was like, God, because they were sending me questions, and I was like, I hope he shows up, man. Like, well, I gotta talk to him.
I got to tell you, Mike, because about the time you sent me the email about doing an interview, I gotten a few others as well. And for whatever reason, I was traveling during that time. It was during COVID, and I'd gone back to visit my mother. And I don't know what it was, but I kind of just went through a little phase of just, I was working on some other projects, and sometimes I let my email slide. So I'd gotten, a few other requests. And, you got back to me. So I got back and said, yeah, let's do it. So I put it on the calendar. But today, I'm looking, okay, on my calendar, all it said at the time was interview. And I thought, usually I've got who it is, what their email address is, blah, blah, blah. It just said interview. And I thought, well, okay. So I started going through my email thinking, who did I make an interview commitment to, until I finally got down, because I've still got a bunch of unanswered emails, and I found yours. And I thought, oh, it's Mike, that comedy guy. And I looked, I said, yeah, it's today at 2:00. And I thought, cool, that's who it is. And I moved all the information onto my calendar. So it was on my calendar, but you emailed me beforehand anyway. So yeah, I love doing interviews. So I'm glad we got to do it. And it was fun. I've never done an interview with a comedian before.
Yeah. And I, normally I interject a lot, but like, I have to hear what you had to say, so I shut my mouth. Normally I'm like bah, 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 but I was like, so maybe you were expecting some comedian stuff, but I was like, no.
I was open. But you're I mean, this was fun. You're a bright guy, and you know your shit. And I was more than once I've sat here thinking of, man, how does he work this stuff into his comedy routines? That's got to be some pretty good shit, in his comedy routines. So, yeah, what a great way to spread the word is to spread it through comedy.
Yeah, that's the best way. Before we wrap up, you had me thinking. I think maybe for a year I want to try that nice guy moratorium that you went on. Actually, right? Don't do a bunch of stuff for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Define what it is. Get real clear with your definitions. Don't make it real general. Like I'm not going to be a nice guy for a year. Like for example, there's an author out there who wrote a book. I think his most famous book was A Year of Living Biblically. I think they even made a TV show out of it. But he did another book of where he was going to, figure out how he goes all the way into something, right? He picks a persona. And so he has another book that has several different topics in it. One was how to be a nice guy. So he interviewed me. He said, if I was going to decide to be a nice guy for a month, what are some of the tips that you would give me? So rather than just saying, oh, just go be nice to everybody, I had to give them some very, use covert contracts. Don't ever ask anybody for what you really want. Sacrifice all of your needs. So, I gave them tips on how to be a nice guy in the way that I define it. So if you're going to do a moratorium, be very specific about the areas that you want to address, not just a general, I'm not going to be a nice guy. So for example, if you know you have specific areas that you tend to go unconscious in, that when your thermostat kicks in and you're just doing stuff without even realizing you're doing, pick those patterns and ask your guys in your group, what are some of the patterns that they suggest that you do a moratorium on? And I do it 90 days, do it 6 months. And just pick some specific areas. For me, I've done it around sex, and for me, I did it around gift giving. Another one. I did another moratorium. I may mention this in the book as well. I did a moratorium back when I was in my second marriage around saying I'm sorry. I used to say I was sorry all the time. Somebody bumps their elbow, oh, I'm sorry. Somebody had a bad day, oh, I'm sorry. And after a while, I just saying I'm sorry to everything. And so they were counterfeit. They didn't mean anything. Now, I think you should say you're sorry if you've done something hurtful to somebody. When I threw my Kindle at the wall, I didn't really hurt my wife, but I apologized for scaring her, once, and that was it. No more. I didn't keep saying I was sorry. So it had meaning. It meant. So I remember doing a moratorium and saying I'm sorry. Now, if I say I'm sorry, it means something. It's not just I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you. I'm sorry I didn't answer your email. I'm sorry. No. My sorries only come out. So you might, pick something like that to do a moratorium, wherever you tend to go the most unconscious in your nice guy patterns.
For all the guys out there that don't have dads or missing dads or whatever the fuck it is, this book is dad. Okay, because I was feeling a little emotional. I was like, Dad?
Dad, is that you?
Is that you, Dad?
And thank you for the invitation. And even though I don't always answer all my email in a timely way, I never say no to podcast interviews. I've had plenty of people say, I'm just starting a podcast. Will you be my first guest? Nobody listens to it. I'll go, yeah, sure, let's do it. And I hope I can always do that. That's my plan, is that to the day I die, I will say yes to every podcast. If it's legitimate and valuable. I mean, I've only had to hang up on one. But, I love doing them. And I love that people are doing this work, and I love that it spreads the word to people that maybe people in your community might not have ever heard of may get to do it. So I thank you for the invitation. And like I said, I don't say no. So, when I'm as big as Tim Ferriss or somebody like that, hopefully I'll still be saying yes to podcast requests.
Before we end it, are there things that you want to plug in,
They come check me out. I've got a couple of websites. One, my main website is drglover.com, just drglover.com. It's got all my classes, all my seminars, all my podcasts, all the stuff that I sell and offer. There's free stuff on there, and low price stuff and high price stuff. And I've got another website based on my second book called Dating Essentials for Men. So it's datingessentialsformen.com. So they can check that out. And if they just want to Google me, if you just Google Robert Glover or Google No More Mr. Nice Guy, I come up in all the top spots. So just look me up and send me an email, and I won't answer it.
And he won't apologize either.
I won't apologize for not answering. Actually, I have an assistant that answers most of them because I just got way too behind. So I've had an assistant for a couple of years that answers most of the general emails, but the podcast requests, I just let them stay in the inbox.
Oh, last thing. Is there anything you can share with the audience? Because it's been Corona, it's been locked down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some things have changed. What is there something? Is there some insight that you've gained for yourself, or maybe for the world, whatever it may be, that you could share with the audience?
Around the whole pandemic and stay home and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
just for you, I'm not saying like, oh, what you learned about COVID, but just more like what you
Yeah.
learned.
No. Okay. Yeah, I get you. I get you.
Mhm.
I almost died about 2.5 years ago. I got really sick, constant stomach problems, got where I couldn't eat, couldn't shit, lost over 30 pounds, was in pain a lot of the time, constant stomach spasms. And I live here in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Went to doctors here, went to doctors in the United States. Nobody could find it. I got misdiagnosed, mistreated. Nobody could figure out what was wrong. And kind of the consensus was maybe I had some kind of, tropical bug or something. But I was knocking on death's door. And without going into the depth of story, my wife stumbled onto a doctor, actually a mother of a classmate of my son, my stepson, who's a doctor. And she was just happened to be talking to her about my problems. And she was, well, I'm a doctor. And my wife explained the problems. And then she said, well, my husband's a gastroenterologist. So he's a doctor too. So I went to see him. He found the problem. I had a tumor blocking my small intestine. He said, we got to do surgery like right now. I said, give me 24 hours. So I went into surgery in a Mexican hospital with a Mexican doctor, didn't know, if I'd wake up, and I did. And they did an amazing job. And but I in that whole process, I surrendered. I surrendered into the pain, surrendered into this might be killing me, surrendered into maybe not knowing if I'd ever know what was killing me, and a lot of just surrendering what I couldn't change, what I couldn't control, and I surrendered into death, and death doesn't scare me anymore. And so this whole coronavirus thing, I've watched the whole world go crazy. Like, grandma might die, somebody might die, we're all gonna fucking die. And I'm not trying to be callous, but most cultures nowadays are really uncomfortable with death. That's why we're all freaking out about the virus. I haven't had one moment of fear of the pandemic. I already almost died. I watched my father, my older sister, and my younger brother all die within 11 months of each other about 10 years ago. Watched my mother have a stroke that almost killed her about a year and a half ago. Death is just it's real. And so I guess the one piece I'd give, if people can take out of this whole pandemic thing, is to work around getting comfortable with death, that we are going to die. Whether we catch the coronavirus or get hit by a bus, we're going to die. Maybe we'll die of any other things. And most of us don't know when we're going to die. So this is just a big reminder that not that we got to get better technology to fight all pandemics. No, we got to learn how to die. We got to learn how to let go of grandma. We got to learn how to accept our own reality of death. And so, I get me just giving these few little thoughts at the end of a podcast probably doesn't give people much to go on. But, if we get down to our most basic core fear, it usually is about death. And if we can deal with our fear of death, it just opens us up to live life to its fullest. We got nothing to fear. We're all going to die. All right, let's go do it. So there's my pandemic.
Yeah.
My 2 pesos from the pandemic.
Heck yeah. Well, Dr. Glover, thank you so much for being on again. And guys, you heard the man himself. You got to get this book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. It's not just for men. It's for women as well.
Women read it. I get emails from women all the time. Yeah. So, Mike, thank you so much for the invitation. Thanks for emailing me back. This was a blast, and thanks for spreading the word.
Yes, sir. All right, guys, I will see you on the next episode. of the Set Breaker podcast. And until then, have a good night, have a good morning, and have a good day.